Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, 5th of October, 2022. It's 9 o'clock here in Ireland. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us today. Today we almost have our full team here with us. It's wonderful to have everybody here. And today the topic is Kardec. And it's a pleasure, it's an honor to try to talk a little bit about Kardec. So, anyway, let's start with the ladies. Elsa, how are you, my dear?
I am very happy. My happiness is increased when I participate here again after a month outside of the UK. I have a new eyes, as you can see, no glasses anymore. So really happy. And may God bless us all. This is a wonderful day, wonderful talk. And I hope we can achieve hearts and minds about Allan Kardec.
Miss Gibbons, how's
Hello.
Wimbledon?
Wimbledon is good. Partner is better where I am. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Boa tarde. Once again, we are here together today talking about Allan Kardec, which is a very, very special topic. And let's hope that what we know about him make us to try to be a little bit more like he was. So welcome and may God bless us all. E bem-vindo a todos. Hoje vamos falar sobre o Kardec e que possamos servir como ele serviu. E bem-vindos e boa reunião para todos nós. Que Deus nos abençoe. Obrigada.
Ok. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Stevan. Bonsoir à tous. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Really very happy to be here to talk about Allan Kardec, which is the person in town which basically brought to the light this spiritist body of knowledge. And we will talk a little bit more about him because the birthday of his birth was 3rd of October, 2 days ago. So we will try to commemorate, talking a little bit about him and what he achieved to do in this life where he was known as Allan Kardec.
Great. Buenas noches, Rodrigo.
Buenas noches, muchas gracias por estar aquí una vez más con vosotros. Es una alegría, un honor de estar con este grupo, con todos los que estáis ahí conectados con nosotros. Hoy hablaremos sobre Kardec. ¿Qué tenemos que decir? Hablar sobre Kardec es algo buenísimo, muy agradable, porque al final, sin él, bueno, podría haber otros, como dicen los espíritus, pero claro, Kardec fue el elegido, aceptó el reto de codificar el espiritismo y hoy estamos aquí hablando sobre él y teniendo toda esta codificación que nos ilumina la vida, nuestra existencia, nuestro progreso. Entonces, una buena reunión a todos. Thank you all for being here with us. It's an honor to be here with this group, with all of you connected with us. We are talking about Kardec. It's a huge responsibility, but also a pleasure. And so I hope we can have everyone a very good night talking about Kardec here. Thank you.
Great. Okay. As usual, let's go to our short video. And by the way, before this, I want to say good night to Beatriz Gilles and Patrocinio, Ricardo Bittencourt. They are all with us today. So thank you very much, my friends. Thank you for being here with us. And let me share my screen. And let's see the short video.
By 1850, in the United States and Europe, the phenomenon of table turning had become very popular, crowding concert halls with hundreds of spectators who wanted to see such freely flying objects up close. It was also common in private gatherings within family homes. Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, a renowned French educator, initially did not pay attention to such events. Rivail considered them to be possible outcomes of some unconsciously generated physical phenomenon by the participants themselves, thus being irrelevant. But after hearing from a friend who considered himself a serious person that the objects answered questions, he became interested because he saw in this detail something worthy of research.
I will only believe when I see this for myself, and when I am proved that the table has brains to think and nerves to feel.
After attending several of these meetings and reviewing dozens of past meeting records, Rivail concluded that the deep and complex answers came from outside intelligences to those who served as mediums at such meetings. It was necessary further and deeper investigations.
That left no doubt. My ideas were far from accurate, but there was a fact that necessarily followed from others. I saw in those apparent futilities something serious like the revelation of a new law, which I took to study in depth.
After testing and ruling out any possibility of fraud with the mediums he would use for his research, Rivail submitted to the spirits a series of questions aimed at elucidating problems concerning the philosophy, psychology, and nature of the invisible world.
First of all, I understood the seriousness of the exploration I was going to undertake. I realized in this phenomena the key to the obscure and controversial problem of the past and future of humanity. It was, in short, a whole revolution in ideas and beliefs. Therefore, it was necessary to work with the utmost circumspect and not lightly. Be positivist and not idealistic, so as not to deceive me.
Kardec formulated and tested several hypotheses in order to explain mediumistic phenomena, among them fraud, hallucinations, physical forces, somnambulism, unconscious clairvoyance, telepathy, and disembodied spirits. To reassure that the information obtained would be reliable, he used different mediums, distant and unknown to each other, for the crossing of the answers. The result of this extensive research was published in the Spirits Book, April 18, 1857. It contained the principles of the Spiritist teachings on the nature of spirits, their manifestations, and their relations with men, the moral laws, the present and future life, and the future of humanity, written under the dictation and published by order of superior spirits by Allan Kardec.
When questioned about its nature, this force has declared itself to belong to the world of spirit beings who have divested themselves of the human corporeal envelope. In this way, the doctrine of the spirits has been revealed.
Details of the scientific method used by Rivail and about the superior spirits who communicated the Spiritist teachings will be seen in our next studies. Do not forget to check the description of the video for more research material. Stay tuned for the coming episodes.
Okay, so this was about Kardec. So as we saw in the video, Allan Kardec, it is a pen name of a French educator. So Kardec name was Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail. He was born on the 3rd of October, 1804. He discarnated on 31st of March, 1869. So he he studied with Pestalozzi in Switzerland in the 19th centuries. He published books relation to grammar, mathematics, and made many suggestions how to improve the French education at that time. And after this, he dedicated 15 years of his life organizing and decodifying the Spiritist teachings. It's an honor to talk about him. For more efforts we do here, we are far away to say thank you for everything he gave to us. And I would like to start our conversation today with my friend Silvia. And my dear, who was Kardec? I just presented here a bio, but who was Kardec?
I thought you were going to start with Charles, but anyway, let's start. I've made a few notes here because you said the biography and everybody can read it, but I think it's interesting to read the man. And I think how could you define, if you could define Kardec in one sentence, how could we say it? And to me, he was a prince among men. And for those who don't understand this English expression, it means that someone who has done something great, that has great character, has achieved great things, has exceptional qualities. And this term is used when you want to express that someone is really excel above everybody else. And, as we know Jesus was the Prince of Peace. And I think that was Kardec was. He was a prince among men because he had great intelligence. He was extremely intelligent. He was incisive, deep thought. He was a man of very few words, who thought deeply about things. He also, I think one of his greatest qualities was that he was able to put the most abstract concepts into very simple language that could be the reach of understanding of almost everyone. And I think this is one of the greatest things that made, that's why he was chosen to be the codifier of the doctrine of Spiritism, really. Also, I think he was a man of total dedication to what he did. He, as a teacher, he was extremely dedicated to his students, to make sure that they learn things, to make sure that they would grow with their knowledge, rather than just most teachers in schools. And this hasn't changed very much, I don't think, since his time. Teachers just throw things. It's very few and far between the teachers that wanted the students to learn something and to be able to grow that knowledge. And I think that's one of the characteristics that Kardec had. And he had this as a teacher, as a writer, of educator that he was before. And he took this also to when he codified the Spiritism. And I think I read somewhere that his flag was work, solidarity, and tolerance. I think his early life, he dedicated himself to study. As you said, he studied in Switzerland. And he was at one of the greatest institutes of education that ever was. That was the Pestalozzi Institute, and you said about that. And he was always very, very able. From very early on, he was able to learn things. And by the age of 13, 14, he was already teaching and helping his colleagues who were not able to understand things as easily as he did. So he was helping and teaching people. He also was very, a learned man. He spoke several languages that he learned, and he became a translator. And I think one of the things that he continued from his early age to the moment in which he died was his desire to educate people, to help them, to bring the best in themselves. I think that's one of the greatest qualities that we can see when we read Spiritism. And that's what Kardec said, his potentiality of being able to educate people, to really make them learn and to use the knowledge. Kardec was a very scientific-minded man. He studied magnetism, and he was members of societies of science, and I think the Aras, I'm not sure if my pronunciation is correct there. So he was always very interested in learning different things beyond what it was mostly what people learned. And he had knowledge in physics, in chemistry, in mathematics, arithmetic. He also knew literature and compared anatomy. And one of his great loves was astronomy. And also he had knowledge in accountancy, which I think is really interesting, because he was, I think, when you see the incredible range of knowledge, of interest that he had, because even before he became Allan Kardec, as Professor Raphael, he had written many books on mathematics, arithmetics, and many other books in education, and he transformed the education in France and also in Germany. So he was already an incredible educator. Even if he hadn't done the Spiritism, he would be in history just for the work he did in France on education, which was very important. And he had such an incredible range of things he was interested in, knowledge, that I think you could call him a Renaissance man, because he was that kind of person who was so interested in so many fields of knowledge. We would call him that. And he was very dedicated to this work. I think one of the things as well that when one reads about him was that he was born in a family of people, there were lawyers and teachers, and he went to study in Switzerland. And I think his family already had this great vision for him, because maybe they could see how important he was, how intelligent he was. And he went to Switzerland, which is a Protestant country, very strong. The Protestantism in Switzerland is quite strong and very severe. And Kardec, as a Catholic, suffered quite a bit of, people suffered a little bit of intolerance, I think. And this was one of the things that motivated him to actually unify religions, bring them together to see what they have in different religions that are good and could unify. And I think this was a great preparation as well for him when he started the work of the codification. But I think, I don't want to take too long, but I think that's one of the important things. When we see Kardec, the man that he was, the kind of character that he was, we know that why he was chosen by the spirits, benefactors, by the Spirit of Truth. And only a man like that could have a mission, and on his shoulders was to bring to the world, to bring to earth the promise that Jesus had made 1800 years earlier, and when he said, "If you love me, keep my commandments, and I'll pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever." And then he says, "Even the Spirit of Truth, that he cannot cannot be known, cannot knoweth him, but ye shall know him, for he dwelleth with you and shall be with you. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I said to you. So you can imagine this mission of codification of the third revelation, because we know there was Moses and Christ, and whatever we could not remember or know at the time of Jesus, that was the Spiritism was going to bring. And in facing it, and the work, this mission was on his shoulders. I think we cannot really understand, I think, the more we admire Kardec, I think it's still quite far from us to really understand the man that he was, what was demanded of him, the sacrifice, because there is the message that the Spirit of Truth gave to him. And he said, I just read this because I find it better. He said, the Spirit of Truth said to him, a very, very brief summary of it. To do the work of high intelligence is not enough. You needed humility, modesty, disinterestedness, courage, perseverance, firmness, prudence, tact as not to compromise the success of the work. It's necessary devotion, abnegation, and be prepared to face every sacrifice. I think, if anything, and then he ends by saying, your mission is subordinate to the conditions that depend on you alone. So I think any other man would be broken by this, to have all this, to be able and to have the most incredible different concepts and put it together in a way that every single person who opens the medium's book or the spirit's book are able to read it and understand it. It's a work of an incredible potential that only a man like him, and we are so grateful for him, but we still, I think, don't quite understand really the sense of who he was to be able to fulfill the mission that he had, and also to make us understand and bring to us, to everyone who lived after that, through the sacrifice, he was persecuted, he suffered a lot, yet he persevered to the very last moment, and he died working. And I think maybe one day we'll be able to understand the depth that Kardec was, and the work of being to us the third revelation. I think is a wonderful thing, and I'm grateful to him, and my prayers to him every day. So
Thank you, my dear.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now let's go to Spain. Rodrigo, what Kardec did to you and your family?
Oof, that's nice and very, how can I, thoughtful question. So I think he did everything, to be honest. Open up my heart here with you. So I was lost in matter, in everything that we see, which is inviting us for doing what we shouldn't, or for not evolving, for not progressing, not to practice love. So I was inserted in matter in all the ways we could think about it. And when I knew, actually, in my history, my mother was a spiritist since I was 13. So I went to the spiritist center in Campinas, Brazil. Bezerra de Menezes was the spiritist center, and I was with her. But of course, when we are young, so we are not interested on thinking about that. So we are matter is like pushing us to a different direction, and I think I left it to take me to this direction, and I simply considered spiritism concepts in my life, but didn't use it to transform me. But one day when I was, I think, 38 or 37, I don't remember when, interestingly, I was brought to Spiritism back through Protestantism, because I was attending to a group, a praying group that my wife was attending to. Uh, and then I think it remembered me about, God exists. So there's something else that we should think about. And then I remembered my spiritist experience with my mother when I was young, and I started reading. And as soon as I started reading, I started with Emmanuel books, the novels. But then I understood that I learned I needed something else, because, of course, there was a concept behind that, and this was in the Spiritist doctrine. And then I started reading the Spiritist book, the Spirit's book. It was amazing. So I saw a totally different perspective of life that I hadn't seen before. I can tell you that I'm not different, but when I knew Kardec, because you know the author by the work, that's the same, isn't it? So you know the author by the work the author is doing. So when I started reading the Spirit's book and learning all of those amazing things, amazing concepts, that philosophy, I learned that, because someone is intelligent not by the answers but by the questions. So, and the questions were so intelligent and bringing so much food for the answers the spirits brought us in the Spirit's book, that I noticed that this person, Kardec, is simply someone not from this world. But I think he's not from this world. He came here just to left, or to take to us that, and he's simply amazing. And then I started eating literally spiritism. So I started reading Medium's book and all the codification, and I think after that I'm not a different person, because it's impossible in some years that you change yourself. But I see things in a totally different perspective. I think Kardec brought to me the, let's say, the comprehension of God's and Jesus' love that entered into my life and made me feel part of something bigger, and to be able to let it transform me in a way that I see my family differently, I see the people differently, I see the world different, I see really what is fraternity. And that was what Kardec brought me. I see part of this fraternity we call the universe, the creation, God. God for me was someone, and today it's not someone, because it's impossible to consider God someone. It's something that I'm still trying to understand, and Kardec is helping me to do that. And that's, I think I have no other words to explain that. So I'm a totally different. I'm willing to be a totally different person now, because I'm still not a different person, but I'm willing to be, and I'm just willing to be a different person because of Kardec.
Wonderful. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Yes. It is a game changer for everyone who knows him. So I want to say good night to Jana Kreeling, Marco Davis, Gabriel Inácio, Camille Brilla, Ruben de los Santos, Corina Queiroz. So good night. Let's go now to London with Elsa. My dear Elsa, 25 years in the UK, introducing or reintroducing Kardec, because Kardec was there way before. And I think you're going to understand what I'm going to say. How is your feeling when you hand a spirit's book to a British person who doesn't know anything about Kardec, and they read, and next meeting they come to you and look in your eyes and say thank you?
It's a good question, Steve, because happened something with me a few years ago, exactly the same as you said now. The person knew Chico Xavier, but didn't heard about Allan Kardec. And I was explaining to him, as he knew Chico Xavier, about the phrase that Emmanuel and André Luiz used to say, Jesus, the door, Kardec, the key. So Chico Xavier wrote this phrase in the book that is not translated into English, Spiritist Opinion. It's a book in Portuguese, a wonderful book we should read because we know more about Spiritism per se. But depending of the person, if the person is not really interested in Spiritism, you can say things, and as the Spirit's book, there is a number of times the word Jesus is inside the book. When for the first time I gave this book to a husband of my friend in Brighton many years ago, he was really happy to receive the book. When I started to talk with my friend, he started browsing the book, and he closed the book and gave me back the book. As such a surprise to me. He said, no, 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 no. In so many words with Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is a religion. I'm not connected with the religion. So I came from Brazil, as I said, 25 years ago, and I was totally naive totally in the way how to present to Anglo-Saxon people. And after that, of course, I learned a little bit more, I exchanged idea with other people, and now I never approach with something that can show that we are religion, because we don't know how the people will understand that we are not a religion, we are a philosophy. And Kardec wisely brought for us all the information that we need about the moral teachings. That is the way that they move the world. So we don't get there until really we understand about life, the entire life, where we come from, where we are going, and only Spiritism clarifies it for us. Another thing that I think that's very important, one campaign that started in Brazil in 1972, completed this year 50 years of this campaign, launched by USE São Paulo, Spiritist Union of São Paulo is a huge, more than 4,000 Spiritist center affiliated to use São Paulo, official members. And they started a campaign, we call Begin to Begin, or something like that. Comece pelo começo. Silvia, translate for me in English. Comece pelo começo.
And begin at the beginning.
Yes. And Janet Duncan wisely, 30 years ago, started, translated into English this campaign, and started here in the UK, a small brochure presenting Kardec, presenting Spiritism into British people. When I saw this campaign, that was a key for me, how to understand the mind of these phlegmatic people here in the UK. I think in Europe, depending in Germany, etc. The way to show them that Spiritism is a door, really, to understand about myself, ourselves, about life, about sufferings, about heaven and hell, and all other things. So it's not easy as we think that is to introduce this to English people. I don't know, Charles can speak about the French,
Mm-hmm.
but what we can really persist doing what we are doing here, if we do not find British people to do this job that we are doing here, we can continue doing, and the benefactors are appreciating what we are doing in a small scale, because of course one day these lives, etc., will be done with native people. But until there, me, Silvia, Stevan, and Rodrigo, Charles, we will continue doing, because the work is important. And we can really transmit something, indicate books that it will be the answers for a lot of people. The Spirit book, the most important. The Gospel is a way of life, is a book of psychology, how to live, how to treat your family, not judge. So a lot of things we can learn in the gospel, but not as a religion. People separated the things. Moral teachings are universal. So no one can change universal laws, universal teachings. You can put labels, label here, label there, Christians, Muslims, etc. But the dorsal spine, the back spine, is the same for everywhere because it was brought by Jesus. If you don't accept Jesus, but accept the moral teachings, etc., it's fine, but not as a religion. But this is the word and the work that we are doing here. And I hope we can do more. We can spread this life, we can spread these teachings with kind and love and respect, and never force people to accept. One day, everyone will wake up in the right time, the right moment for each one of us, accordingly with our level of understanding. Isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
There are some
So,
things, Steven, so quickly. Perhaps Charles can let us know. Ah, Charles wrote here, yes, because there are Humberto de Campos wrote to Chico Xavier one wonderful message, and we have this message in English. I will post in our BAS Facebook. The message called Kardec and Napoleon, when Jesus and the emissaries, benefactors, were preparing in a big meeting, the second time that Jesus came to earth. This meeting was a preparation for the consoler, the promised consoler, Spiritism, born in Allan Kardec later on. I will try to find it. Thank you.
thank you, Elsa. Thank you. Well, I left for the last one our French guy, our French friend, and Charles. Um, you are, like, let's say, among us here. You are the one who were closest with Kardec, who knows Kardec, perhaps, or not perhaps, but deeper than us, because you don't need translation. We know when you translate something, things change the meaning or what they want to say. Kardec at a certain point, his handwriting because you saw a document, you touched real document written by Kardec. You have been digging and digging many books in libraries, in public or organizations where there is a document. I know what Elsa just said. The approach is different for an European person in relation to a Brazilian person. But when you are doing this research, when you are reading Kardec, when you are touching his the paper, his handwriting, what comes up to your mind? What Kardec did in your mind? What do you think when you are reading this and say, "This is Kardec"?
Yeah, good question, Stevan. Thank you so much. Really, I mean, Rodrigo told it very well. I mean, Kardec also, at a given point in time of my life, he completely changed my life. I mean, I was kind of, you know, indifferent, don't worry about things when I was young and so on, and so on. And all of a sudden, when a problem, a little bit more serious problem came, I had this. I was lucky to find Kardec, and not only Kardec, particularly his work, because as Silvia told at the beginning, he was a quite a person with a lot of potential for sure. He had a very some difficult youth. So his father disappeared when he was 3 years old, and so he grew with his mother, his uncle, and his grandmother. And it was with a lot of difficulties they brought him to Switzerland for the studies. I mean, all this somehow was planned and organized by the spiritual benefactor of the earth, that everything goes well. And also that the beginning of his career as a teacher in Paris in pedagogy area was very quick. With 30 years, he was already known in the Ministry of Education of France at that time, and so on. But then he also faced difficulties, financial difficulties. His uncle lost a lot of money, and it was the ruin of the family. He had to give his institute to somebody else who didn't care as good as him. So he had to fight to get the necessary for to sustain his family and so on. So this is the person himself. And then in 1855, as it was told in the video at the beginning, he was in contact with the phenomenon, and then he started serious investigation about this, as he was serious in all what he did in his whole life. But why do we talk about Allan Kardec today? It's not because just like this, it's because we recognize the tree by its fruit. What is really the strong achievement? What is the fruit? It is the spiritist body of knowledge. This exact, totally revolutionary new concept that brings so strong help, that gives so good and clear and deep meaning in our lives. As Rodrigo told it very well, I can also add on and that it helped me tremendously in my life, and until today, even facing difficulties like cancer and so on that I talked about already. And this is basically why we talk about Kardec. It's just not because the name, it's not just, of course, the person was outstanding. He was really a person with outstanding capacities, and he was, I would say, tailored along the life and the years for performing successfully such a mission as he did. But the most important, again, is the spiritist body of knowledge. Every time he was traveling in 1862 to visit a city center in Lyon, Bordeaux, a lot of cities in France, when he got homages to him, to his person, he always shift them not to his person, but to the spirits who came to help and to bring the teachings. which he simply compiled or codified in these 5 outstanding books. So that is basically how to say. I was French, born in France, and I didn't know Kardec. I discovered Kardec in Brazil. We know that Silvia helped me. Santo de casa não faz milagre. Nul n'est prophète à son pays. How do you tell that in English, Silvia?
No one is a prophet in his own land.
Voilà. So that's why I discovered Kardec in Brazil and still in France. But yet I see a lot of progress here. He is really more and more and more known. And basically what he did in the 19th century, in the mid of the 19th century, it came at the right time also, because if it would have been 50 years before the French Revolution, maybe he would have been burnt or killed or imprisoned or whatever by the kings or the religious leaders which were associated to the king. If it would have come maybe a little bit later, maybe it would have been strangulated or dampened by the materialism who got very, very strong later on. But it came really at a good time where a lot of people were receptive to those ideas. It spread out around the world, and now it is here. The 5 books are here, they are clear, and today Spiritism has 30 million of followers. This means that there are more Spiritists in the world than for Jewish, for instance. So it may seem to be a little number, yet it is not so little anymore, because in only Jewish are 3,500 years ago with Moses, and Spiritism is only 150 years ago. So you see that the progress has been quite significant. And what Kardec also brought is Spiritism, body of knowledge, is basically a revolutionary concept. Elsa talked about also a little bit. Is Spiritism a religion? Yes and no. Yes, if you go to the moral laws which are at the basis of all the religions around the world, like the Christian one, as an example, do unto the other what you would like the other to do unto you, or love your neighbor as yourself, and the Sermon of the Mount, and all these diamonds which are and that basically nobody discusses. Everybody agrees with these moral teachings which come out of the religion, out of all the religions. So in this sense, Spiritism is a religion. But does Spiritism have dogma, rituals, hierarchical sacerdoty? Is Spiritism preaching exclusivism? Out of Spiritism there is no salvation? Absolutely not. Spiritism preaches out of charity no salvation. So clearly Spiritism is a religion, the good part of the religion, but not on the bad part of the religion. Then you can ask, is Spiritism a science? Again, yes and no. Because Kardec used, as we have seen in the video, scientific methodology to check the phenomenon, analyze them from the effects, go back to the causes, check by other effects if the explanation is valid for all the phenomena which can be seen. And basically, this is scientific methods that Kardec used. But on science, we find also, what do we find also? Atheism, materialism, some type of pride or whatever. Does Spiritism have these 3 things? Absolutely not. So Spiritism is a science with the good things of science, but not the wrong thing of science. Same for philosophy. So basically, what did Kardec do? He took the best of the religion, he took the best of the science, and put all together into a new concept, revolutionary concept, disruptive concept, which is the Spiritist body of knowledge. And this is not yet understood and not yet recognized by most of the human people, but will be one day. The Spiritists, of course, they have this enthusiasm and so on because they understood or they are understanding, or they discovered it. But it's really something out of the box, really something new. The only thing is, of course, it is spiritualist and not materialist. So it's somehow jeopardizing a lot of interests of the people which are living from materialism. But you see, here also, you see the benefactor of the which are helping the earth did everything in the right sequence. Spiritism is here with a body of knowledge, with clear teachings, the faith which is according to the common sense and the reason. So no blind faith anymore, but only through teachings that you understand first and believe later on if you want to, keeping your full liberty to believe in it or not. These are the basic characteristics of Spiritism, which are absolutely new, absolutely disruptive. So really, I mean, when you ask Spiritism brought to me, it's really this. So this totally new concept, and that is it. You see, even the people who are trying to classify Spiritism, is it a science, a religion, a philosophy? No, science, religion, and philosophy are things, concepts from the past. Spiritism is something new for the future. Leon Denis said, Spiritism is not the religion of the future, it is the future of the religions. So that is exactly, say, it cannot be classified today. Also, there are some discussions, for instance, is Spiritism secular? Yes and no, again. Secular in the sense that Spiritism respects all the beliefs which are helping the people to get better persons. And there is no discrimination. Within the Spiritists, you have Catholic, Evangelic, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim even people which are Spiritists. So everybody is welcome in Spiritism, and everybody can also continue having the belief that they want. Everyone is fully free. This is this famous free will as the basic of the teaching. So in this sense, yes, Spiritism is secular, but secular in the sense that, for instance, no, we are secular, so we do not discuss nothing about the beliefs or whatever. Then Spiritism is a little bit more complicated. For instance, when you talk about resurrection, Spiritism is clear. Now, resurrection is wrongly understood, a wrong interpretation. We should understanding better as reincarnation, for instance. So Spiritism has some clear position on some of the teachings of all the religions. And these, the secular people, they refuse to enter even into reasoning, while Spiritism is entering in this type of reasoning. So again, it is secular and it is not secular. So you cannot classify Spiritism in the boxes from the past. It is not possible. It is really something new, and that's why there is so many difficulty to understand this revolutionary, immense work done by this man, where we are commemorating now 218 years of the birth, the birthday, in the 19th century. So that's what I could say. Hope I have answered to your question, and we are here available to answer any other question if needed. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Charles. It's amazing. So we have many comments here. Mark always collaborating with us.
I see here the comment of Marco Davis. It's true. Spiritism Kardec never told out of Spiritism there is no salvation. He told out of charity there is no salvation. So the atheist, who doesn't believe in nothing which is charitable, is better than a Spiritist who does nothing. You see? So it's the charity, the fraternity, all these values which are the most important. And Spiritism is a tool to reach it, to go to these things, to get the autonomy, isn't it, Stevan? Yes. Understand to do the good for doing the good, and not waiting for a reward or being afraid of a punition. No, that's not it. You do the good for doing the good because you understand that the good is the future of humanity, is good for all your neighbors and also good for yourselves. And with this understanding, you spontaneously, freely do the good. That is what Spiritism is calling charities, by the way. Yeah?
Yes, yes. It's also a comment here from T. He said Kardec introduced methodology in this perfect tripod.
Exactly. Yes, and there are some studies and some paper published about comparing the methodology Kardec used with the principle of epistemology from Thomas Kuhn, Imre Lakatos, and Paul Feyerabend and whatever, which came only in the 20th century, you see. So he somehow anticipated those principles 50 years because they were established by the epistemology for the science.
There is a comment here from Camille Brilla. He said here, Catholic religion made me leave it because it was taking away my freedom. Spiritism is a tool that teaches me how to look for answers within myself and have not disappointing me since I started.
Thank you, Camille, for this statement.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I am always able to understand and accept reality with Spiritism. Okay, Rodrigo, something tells me you want to say something.
Oh, I was really emotional after you asked me that question because I was remembering here that when I knew Kardec, so we didn't pray at home. It was something interesting because I had never prayed at home. And when I knew Kardec, I started, getting involved with Spiritism. So I started one day to pray in the lunchtime, and my son looked at me and said, "What are you doing? You have never done this before." And I said, "Yes, something changed here." And then I
A
was
new
remembering
sheriff in town.
my daughter. So sorry, I get emotional about that. So my daughter, the day before yesterday, I kissed her and went to my bed, and she said, "Hey, Dad, don't forget to pray." And this was Kardec. So nothing else to say. So and after 5, 6, 7 years, we founded a Spiritist Center with the support of my family, and we are trying to spread this out to all of those who want to feel the same. And this is wonderful. I was a drunk wanderer in the desert. So with Kardec, I'm no more.
Yeah. Great. Silvia?
Still quickly,
Elsa?
something I was thinking about it in so short time of years. Kardec brought to the world this enlightenment in more than 40 works. I think 40 works of, or even more, no Charles. The Spiritist magazine, I don't know, I can remember if it was 39 magazines and 5 books and other books. So many works, deep working deeply in this field and brought it to us. Gave in our hands the consular. I think he started it with more or less 53 years old, né? Researching about Spiritism because he already, before, as Silvia pointed, he studied mesmerism and other things. And he devoted himself until the end, dedication and total full to bring to us these books, Guidelines for Life. One day, when people really accept all these teachings, no more wars, so the level of the world will change. No, a lot of jealousy, etc.,
Yeah.
pride, etc. We will get there.
We will
eventually.
get there. Okay. So, thank you, my friends. It was wonderful to be here. It was very difficult for me to control emotionally here, but thank you very much. It's a pleasure to share this moment with you all. And I think the word today is thank you, Kardec, for everything. Thank you for the courage, for the abnegation, and do not forget about Amelie, who was always supporting him, who was always standing by him when he needed.
Steve,
Yeah.
Stevan, in the chat, Charles put there about Ricardo Vieira that wants a Spirit Center in Dublin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Ricardo, you're saying here your English is not very well, so I say in Portuguese. So, excuse me here. Ricardo, nós temos o Centro Espírita aqui em Dublin. Por favor, eu vou botar aqui no chat o site. Nós temos reuniões a cada 15 dias. Então, é de domingo. Esse domingo não teremos. Nós vamos ter a próxima reunião no dia 16 de outubro, às 11 horas da manhã. Ok? Eu te espero lá e obrigado por contactar a gente. Okay, let me put it here. Okay, it's done. Okay, let's go to the announcements. So, next week, next Wednesday, we're going to talk about the reincarnation process. 12 of October, 9 p.m., we'll be here. Every other Tuesday, we have the conversations on mediumship with Guilherme Dias and Rafael Caldas. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m., we have Allan Kardec Medium's book study. The facilitators are Guilherme Dias, Munir Gariba, and Charles. The Zoom details, it's on your screen. Also, every other week, we do have a study of the book No Solar. It's from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And also the details of the Zoom meeting, it's in your screen. Every Wednesday, 4 p.m., Munir also asked us to stop a little bit and have a coffee break with Kardec. This is the most important coffee break in our Wednesday. It's wonderful to hear Munir, how he explained Kardec, his view. It's wonderful. So I invite everyone to be in your laptop at 4 o'clock every Wednesday. And also, if you want to donate and help two institutions in Brazil, we are supporting Grupo Sheila in Salvador, Instituto Mutirão in Paraná. So if you want to know more and how to contribute, go to www.kardec.org.uk/high5. And this is it from us today. I want to say thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you, my friends, next Wednesday, 9 p.m.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tchau. Até mais. Hasta luego.